Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today at the channel we have a vintage review, and it's been a long time since we've done one of these. And today we are taking a look at Minion Hunter, and this is a board game by Lester Smith that is set in the Dark Conspiracy world, which is an old RPG from GDW Games. I was not familiar with this game at all. I had never heard of this until a comment on one of my, I think it was one of my Fallen Land videos, that somebody said the Fallen Land board kind of reminded them of the Minion Hunter board. And I had never heard of it, so I went and did some research and thought, hey, that looks kind of cool. And so I found a copy on eBay for way too much money, but I did want to check this game out. Now, my box has definitely seen better days. I believe this is from 1992 here. It looks like somebody drew on the box with a bleach pen or something, but I do love the art, and I believe that is Larry Elmore did some of the art for this game. So let's read a little bit about Minion Hunter, and then we'll talk a little bit about the game. Okay, so warriors against the dark in a horrific future world. It is the very near future, and America is under siege by creatures of evil, creatures that feast on human suffering. Their minions spawned humanity's darkest myths. It's stories of blood drinkers, flesh eaters, shape changers, and soul stealers. Legends speak of them as vampires, zombies, ogres, ghosts, and ghouls, but the reality is far worse than had been imagined. Now they haunt a ravaged nation, stalking its lonely city streets, prowling its ruined countrysides, striving always to drive humanity to madness and despair. But sometimes the hunters become the hunted. Sometimes the prey stands up and fights back. Even in these dark times, there are individuals who uncover the plots behind the nations, slide into ruin, and work against them. In Minion Hunter, you become one of those individuals. While the dark minions pursue their evil plots, you train your mental, physical, and psychic abilities for battle, collecting equipment and contracts along the way. Then, when a dark encounter alerts you to the nation's peril, you work with your fellow hunters to root out and destroy the dark minions' plots. The best among you will become the most famous minion hunter, but you have to act quickly or the minions will complete their plots and the country will fall completely under their shadow. So, Minion Hunter is an early co-op game, and in this game, the players are taking on the roles of minion hunters, and you are going out into a kind of post-apocalyptic, a supernatural post-apocalyptic America, and you are trying to stop these plots from taking over. And there are four major bad factions. There are the Morlocks, there are the Fae, the Nuke Kids, and the ETs. And all four of these factions are going to be controlled by this plot deck. And the plot deck is all of the threats that you have to take care of. And if the plots start stacking up, then the minions start moving up on this threat track here. And if any one of the four factions reaches the end of the threat track, the players lose the game. So the players are trying to stop all four of these threats from reaching level 20. And the player who has accumulated the most points, who has done the best work at stopping those threats, is the winner. So there is kind of an ultimate winner, but you still need to work together as a team. Now, I am not familiar at all with this company's games. I've heard of some of them before, but we never played them as kids and or growing up. This would have been out when I was in high school. But the board game did come with some brochures, and I always like these brochures from back in the day. They're just neat little time capsules. So here we have a brochure all about the dark conspiracy, the horror, and ancient horror grips the earth. And here we just have some information here about the mystics and the astronaut, the world of future dark earth America there. And here we have another painting here by Larry Elmore, featuring the same couple from the game here. You can tell it's a late 80s, early 90s game because of the underwear being worn outside of the pants there. That seemed to be the style back in the day. But this catalog here is from GDW 1991. So we have a spread here on Dark Conspiracy with some of the ETs there and some of the portals opening. Here we have, of course, Twilight 2000. Of course, I've heard of that, but we never played that. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, of course, also. And then lots of looks like kind of like war games and stuff. So just a neat catalog, kind of a neat blast from the past here. And I wonder, does this have the board game price in here? I was kind of curious about the price. No, it doesn't look like it. But yeah, it's always neat to see these old catalogs. Kind of getting a glimpse back into the history of the hobby. And so Minion Hunter is kind of a simplified mix between Talisman and Arkham Horror. And I think that is a good way to describe the game. Now, I did buy the box. I bought the main game. And I maybe foolishly, I don't know, I spent way too much money, but I also bought the expansion. And talk about an early expansion, folks. Hey, this is what you got when you bought an expansion back in the day here. We get one little cardboard piece of paper here, and it just has some tables that you roll on. There were also some cards that were part of this expansion, but they were just on a sheet of cardboard, and you actually had to cut them out. So all of the blue cards in this equipment deck are from that expansion, so you do have to cut them out. I also had to cut out huge stacks of high quality paper money. Let me tell you, yes, this is the highest quality paper money I've ever seen in a board game here. Unpunched. This copy was unpunched. But so yeah, this is the expansion, Minion Nation, the Minion Hunter expansion, and it adds just a whole bunch of random charts to roll on, because the original game did come with a few random charts, but very few. And so there is a lot more variety if you have this expansion. I have heard that there were copies of the game that came out later, kind of a second edition that included the expansion in it. So maybe if you're looking for this game, you might want to try to find one of those that includes the expansion in it. But here we have our original rulebook, and it is a pretty simple game. It's about as complex as Talisman, maybe, with a little tiny bit of Arkham Horror in the fact that it is co-op and it is kind of a threat management game. And here we have our rule book for the expansion. Now, one thing that does come in this also is a huge chart that you can roll up to randomize your plot cards. So I guess if you've played this game enough, there's a chance that you might learn to kind of count cards in the plot deck, and you can then always win or do really well. And so this kind of randomization chart will prevent that from happening. But I imagine you'd have to play the game quite a few times before you reach that point. And then it also comes with some rules, some module rules that you can add to make the games easier or harder. And the expansion also does come with a cool glossary that gives you a little bit of lore, that gives you a little bit of context, a little bit of flavor text. Because one thing this game is lacking is flavor text. It's a very dry thematic game, and that's probably my biggest criticism of it. I've played this game like 5 times in the last week. I had it set up on the kitchen table for the whole week, and I was having a lot of fun playing it, but it's really basic and it's really dry. I would love to see a company like Restoration Games bring this back into print and work their magic on it and kind of update it and add that cool kind of spice that I think is needed to elevate this game from just being okay to something that would be pretty cool. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about that as we go through. So let's set up the game and play a few rounds, and I'll show you how this thing works. So the first thing you do is you take a character sheet and you need to come up with the cool 80s or 90s name. And I've already decided that I'm going to be Jack Flack, in memory of the great Dabney Coleman, who recently passed away. One of my favorite actors. I love Dabney Coleman. So Jack Flack. Okay, so each of the characters will have 4 stats. You have your empathy, stalking, combat, and contacts. And these stats will correspond to a roll of a d10, and you always want to roll low, so you want to roll your stat or under in order to succeed. And there are 3 kinds of stat tests. There are, I thought they were written here. Where are those? There are average, which is you take your total. There is easy, which you double your total. And there is difficult, which you half your total rounded down. And then you have to roll that or under on a D10. A 1 is always a success, and a 10 is always a miss. So you will be rolling a lot of D10s. The game also comes with a D10 and a D6 for movement. And so each of your characters will start with 1 in each of those skills. So 1 empathy, 1 stalking, 1 contacts, and 1 combat. So all 4 of the major evil factions, the ETs, the Fae, the Morlocks, and the New Kids, they start off the track. So they don't have any points so far. There is a variant where you can play where each one of those will start on a random number on the track, thus making the game quite a bit harder. And then we also have here, our 4 pawns that our players can use. I will pick an appropriate looking Jack Flack here. We'll play him as Jack Flack. So Jack Flack will be starting off the board. And then we have our plot cards. So we'll give these a quick shuffle. Now you're supposed to remove 12 for a game. I've seen some people say when they play solo that they remove 20 because it is pretty, to win the game, you just have to survive going through the whole plot deck before any one of the major evil factions reaches level 20. And so I'm going to remove 20 cards from this plot deck, kind of an easy game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so these plot cards here, they will correspond to different areas on this post-apocalyptic map here, such as New Orleans, Denver, the Carolina Triangle, Twin Cities, St. Louis, Reno, the Quad Cities, Cincinnati. And so all kinds of different locations. And these are plots. These are conspiracies, dark conspiracies that these 4 evil factions are working towards to take over America. And so it's up to us, the Minion Hunters, to go out and stop these plots. And there is a plot track here. And depending on how many players, if you're playing 5 or 6, you start here. 3 or 4, you start here. 1 or 2, you start there. And then the plots start moving down. And when they reach here, if you haven't taken care of them yet, then the kind of bad thing happens. And so there are always going to be 2 locations that you can go to. And so you always move 1 over. So right now we have Denver and New Orleans. So those are the 2 locations that we can go to in order to try to stop those bad plots from happening. So there are a couple different places where you can move, and this is kind of where the complexity of this game comes into play. So we have this outer track, and so this here is kind of your Monopoly board or your Talisman board. And when you are on the outside track, you roll a d6 and you move that many spaces. This is called the career track, because a lot of these spaces will allow you to level up your abilities. Your empathy, stalking, combat, or contacts. So we have the corporate training, we have security training, street training, and empathic training, which is over here just off the camera a little bit. And street training is also just off the camera. But each one of these will allow you to upgrade one of those. And at the beginning of the game, you start by picking one of those corners. And I think I'm going to pick corporate training. So that'll give me +2 stalking, +1 contacts, and actually that's -1 empathy and draw 1 equipment. So that's a pretty good corner to start in because you can't go down to 0 empathy. You can't, you always have at least 1 in each of your stats. So, okay, so let's go there. So that's going to give me, so corporate training +2 stalking. So we'll add 2 to that. We're going to add a +1 contacts, so I have 1 to that. -1 empathy, we can't go to 0. And we also get to draw an equipment card. So the equipment card is the equipment deck here. We'll have a whole bunch of different equipment. And this is how you gain new items and abilities, and also how you gain money. So when you draw an equipment card, you take a look at it. So this will give you a +4 to your combat. It takes 2 hands. And it costs $550 to buy it. Now, I don't have any money, so I can discard this right now, turn in $455. So I will take $55. And so I'm starting the game with $55. So that is the main way you gain money. Some of these cards in the equipment deck are worth many, many, many thousands of dollars. And when you draw one of those cards, especially at the beginning of the game, it really makes the game a lot easier for the ability to buy more equipment and for the very, very important thing of hiring public transportation to move around the board easier. And so maybe hopefully we'll get to show an example of that as well. So we have this corporate track, and you roll the D6 to move around that. And then there are these spaces, these dark encounter spaces, and those allow you to move onto the map of America to start dealing with the plots, to start dealing with the major threats. And so when you are on the map of America, depending on if you are on foot or in a vehicle or you've paid for public transportation, you can move from either one metropolis to the next or more metropolises. If you're on foot, you can only move from one purple space to the next purple space. Sometimes you will be able to move more depending on the vehicle that you own or the vehicle that you have hired. However, as you can see, in between these purple spaces are these other spaces, such as these yellow spaces and these orange spaces. Those are random encounters that you have, and you will roll up on those on your random encounter chart. Now, if you only have the base game, this is your random encounter chart. If you have the expansion, this is your random encounter chart. So the demon grounds are these orange spaces here, and the yellow ground spaces are your outlaw encounters. And so you might have to face off against one of those. If you have public transportation, you get to add to these die rolls when you encounter these spaces. And if you roll a 6 or higher, you don't have an encounter. So it's safer when you travel in a vehicle. There are also these things called proto-dimension encounters, and sometimes you will encounter a proto-dimension, and then you have to roll up here on these random charts. You might have the astral, proto-dimension, temporal, the half-lands, the splinterlands, Mechanica, Gehenna, Tartarus, and so on. And so let's play some Minion Hunter here. So we're starting in the corporate training. Oh, there's also a hospital track. When you take damage, you will often go to the hospital, and then you have to move through the hospital track as you get better. And there are also encounters that you can have in the hospital as well. And whenever you fail to overcome a plot, you move to intensive care, and you also lose an equipment card. And that really sucks at the beginning of the game. This game has a lot of a big snowball effect. The beginning of the game is very hard until you get some money. Once you get a whole bunch of money, it becomes much easier, and you'll quickly start snowballing with your abilities and your stats. But that snowball can very quickly come to a crashing into a stone wall. So you'll hopefully you'll kind of see that as we go here. So yeah, let's play a couple turns. So I'm at the corporate training. The first thing I do is I roll a d6. If you start on this track, you have to move on this track. Okay, a 1. All right, so I can either go here to equipment, draw 2 equipment cards, or I can go here and have a demon ground encounter. Getting equipment is very important, and also for getting money. So let's see what we have. We have the zip gun. The zip gun is $75. I don't have enough. The UV goggles are $450. I don't have enough. We will turn that in for $55. So 45 and 10. So 55, another $55. Okay, not great. And now at the end of my turn, the plot turn happens. And so this plot in New Orleans there, it drops down 1. Okay, so we're still on the career track. Oh, another 1. Corporate raid, or I can go back to corporate. So corporate raid, this says that this is easy versus stalking. So my stalking is 3, and so that's easy. So I double that, so a 6. So I would have to roll a 6 or under to succeed. And if I succeed, I gain +1 combat and +2 stalking and draw 2 equipment cards. If I fail, I go to intensive care in the hospital. I think I'm going to take that chance. I'm going to go on a corporate raid here. And as you can see, the lack of flavor text. There's nothing, what is happening in this corporate raid? What actually am I doing? Am I hacking? Am I infiltrating some kind of skyscraper? Am I doing something, some kind of cybernetic attack? Everything is very mechanical and very dry. You have to kind of bring the theme to the game. So, all right, so I need a 6 or under in order to go on this corporate raid, and a 9. No. Okay, so I go to intensive care, which is in the hospital track here. So I go here, lose 1 equipment card. I don't have an equipment card. It's the plot turn now. This drops down, and now it's discarded. So we flip it over, and we do the bad thing. So the Nuke Kids. They go up on the track 6. So they are in the lead now. They are 1, 2, 6 there. So it has the numbers there, so they go up 6 spots. There's some drawing of the Nuke Kids. If you were to try to solve this plot, if you were to confront this plot, you could either escape, and that's an easy versus stalking. If you escape, though, they just stay on the track. You don't get to remove them. But if you fight them, it's a difficult versus empathy. And so right now at the beginning of the game, my empathy is 1. Difficult is you half that, so it would actually go down to 0, but you can never have a 0, and so a 1. I would need a 1 out of 10 chance in order to overcome that Nuke Kids plot. What were they plotting? I don't know. It's just a picture and a name, and what am I doing to fight them? I don't know. How am I fighting them with my empathy? I don't know. There is no flavor text in this game really whatsoever. So I'm in the hospital now, so I need to see if I get better. And we roll a d6 and a d10. And we confront our chart here. On a roll of a d6, 1 to 3. On a 4 to a 6, no encounter. I rolled a 4, so we have no encounter. Okay, so I don't have an encounter in the hospital, so I am out of intensive care into the general ward. And actually, this plot should have moved down there. So now we are in Denver, and that is that. Okay, so now I am back to my turn. Hospital track. 4, so no encounter. I am now in the outpatient care, and now Denver moves down. And my final movement here from the hospital, it is a 3. So I do have an encounter, and I encounter number 4 here in the hospital. A philanthropist visits the hospital, advance, then succeed at an average of fame to receive $25,000. Okay, so fame is if you solve some of these plots, if you confront some of these plots, they will have a fame total, and that is your fame total depending on how many cards you have. Right now, my fame is at 0, but a 1 is always a success. So I have a 1 in 10 chance to get $25,000 from this philanthropist. No, okay. But I do have a successful encounter. I am well now. And so from the outpatient center, I can move to any metropolis. Let's move to Denver and see what happens with this plot. I could go right back to the hospital. Yeah, it's a Nuke Kids. Yep. Okay. Oh, wow. The Nuke Kids again, man. They might win very quickly in this game. All right. So I can either escape, which would give me an easy versus stalking, or I can fight them, which is a difficult versus empathy. I'm going to try to escape. And a 6. Okay, I did that. So I don't have to encounter them, but they are going to move down on the end of this turn. And so now it is the plot turn. They will move down, and now they move up 5. They're already at 11. They're already over halfway through the track. Okay, so now I'm in the Dark Conspiracy America. Now I am traveling around, and I am in a metropolis now. And let's see here. From the metropolis, I can move to any of the corner spaces, or I can move along one of the orange tracks there. I think I'm going to move into one of the corners. I'm going to move into empathic training just off the camera here. That gives me a +1 contact and a +2 empathy. Okay, +2. And now it is the plot turn. And so now there are going to be 2 cards. I think I messed up. I think there should always, at the beginning of each plot turn, there should be 2 plots available. And I think that's how it goes. Let me double check real quick. That's the one thing that I always kind of like get mixed up a little bit. Yeah, whenever a card is discarded in this stack here, you immediately draw a new plot just so there are always 2. So we'll just kind of keep it like that for now. Okay, so it's my turn. So I am on the career track. I will roll my d6 to see where I move. A 2, I can go to a psychic test facility. You can test your empathy. My empathy at a 0, no effect. A 1 to 3, lose a turn, or an empathy of 4 or higher, gain 2 empathy, +1 stalking, and plus a contact. And my empathy is only 3, so I don't think I want to go there. I'm going to have a proto-dimension encounter. So we go 1, 2, and we roll on the proto-dimension chart. So let's go to our expansion here. So the expansion, to control the portal you have found, roll an average versus empathy. Okay, so my empathy is 3, so I need to roll a 3 or under, and a 4, no. So we have a random proto-dimension chart here. Okay, so we roll a d10 and a d6, a 4 and a 6. Okay, so we are having an encounter here in the Splinterlands, Earth's partial parallels, and a 6 here. I am attacked by bloats. Succeed in average versus combat or go to intensive care. My combat is only 1, so I have to get a 1. And oh, I got it. All right, so I defeated the bloats. Okay, so I don't get anything in response to that. I wonder if the bloats are mentioned in the glossary. I have no idea what a bloat is. Yes. A bloat is a highly mobile, otherworldly creature resembling a spiky black melon, which attacks by piercing the skin of its prey, clinging tightly and draining vital fluids, then consuming the liquefying corpse. Okay, that is pretty nasty. So luckily we overcame the bloat and we didn't get sent back to the hospital. Now it's the plot turn. We will move the plot down 1. And now it is Jack Flack's turn, and we're on the career track, so we will roll a d6. 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I can go to a contact and have a +1 contact, or 1, 2, 3. I can get a +2 to my empathy. Let's go to the contacts. Actually, let's go to natural empath and gain a +2 to empathy. So that will put us up to 5 empathy. Okay, plot turn. We'll discard Carolina Triangle, and it's a false lead, so this is safe. There is no encounter here. You have been misled by a red herring. Better luck next time. And now we move Twin Cities down. So now we have Twin Cities and St. Louis. Okay, we're on the career track. So let's roll a d6 here. 3, 1, 2, 3. I can draw 1 equipment card, or 1, 2, 3. Roll for a proto-dimension. Equipment card. We need to get more money. And what do we find here? Too bad. We found the Paraphysicist Field Kit. So this has no value and no turn-in value. To gain this card, I have to have an average versus contacts test. My contacts is 3, so on a 1, 2, or 3, I gain this. And a 4, no. Okay, so that gets discarded, so I get nothing. Twin Cities goes down. We're on the career track, d6 for movement. A dark encounter or a dark encounter. Let's have a dark encounter at the Twin Cities there. And we will move to the Twin Cities. We will draw this plot card. It's the ETs. Escape, average versus combat, or fight is easy versus contacts. All right, so my contacts is 3, so that's going to be 6. So I need to get a 6 or under and a 1. All right, so we defeated the ETs. I take this into my hand, and that gives me 3 points for my final score at the end of the game. So we have prevented the ETs from taking over. Okay, so now it is the plot card turn. We'll just move that down like that. Okay, there we go. So now it is our turn again. We are in the Twin Cities. I could move to St. Louis or start moving towards St. Louis. We could maybe start to head towards Reno, but I think I don't feel powerful enough to start moving around the post-apocalyptic America. So I think I'm going to go to security training and give myself a +2 combat and draw an equipment card. And okay, another one with a 0 value here. Find at the next dark encounter. Okay, so the next dark encounter we have, if we confront that and we win the challenge, then we get this chameleon suit. So we'll put that up there as a reminder. And we move St. Louis down now. Okay, so we're on the career track. Let's do a d6 for movement. 3, 1, 2, 3, dark encounter. 1, 2, 3, dark encounter. Let's have a dark encounter with St. Louis. So I will move to St. Louis. We might have a chance to get this chameleon suit. And we have the Nuke Kids. Okay, so we can escape, difficulty versus stalking, or we can have a fight, average versus empathy. My empathy is 5, so a 5 or under. And an 8. No. Okay, so we fail that. That stays out there. We don't get the chameleon suit. And we failed that test, so we do go back to the intensive care. We lose an equipment card. I don't have any equipment. And now it's the plot turn. The nuke kids go down. They go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Man, the nuke kids are just completely taking over America. Okay, so now we are in intensive care. That gets moved there. And a 6. Okay, on a 6, we have no encounter. If we roll a 4 to a 6, we don't have an encounter. We move to the general ward. Reno goes down. My turn again. We need to move out of the general ward. A 4, no encounter. We're in outpatient care, but Reno gets triggered here. The ETs are on the board. The ETs have taken over Reno. They're at number 3 there. We'll move that down. Encounter. And yes, we do have an encounter with spot 10 in the hospital. Morlocks attack the hospital. Succeed versus an easy versus combat to advance. Okay, my combat is 3, so that'll be a 6 or under. No, we fail. Okay, or go to intensive care. I tried to fight the ETs at the hospital, and they attacked me and sent me back to intensive care. Okay, so now the Quad Cities go down. I roll for my hospital encounter, a 6. Okay, general ward. We discard the Quad Cities corporate raid. Can't participate in that because I am in a general ward. We will move that down. Let's move out of the general ward. A 3. Okay, we have an encounter with number 7 here. An organ Lager assault. Succeed at easy versus combat. Okay, 6 or under. 9. And I cannot roll to save my life. Or go back 1 space. I am back in intensive care. And this goes down. Okay, a 1 and 5. A security investigation of a murdered patient. Do not advance. Okay, Cincinnati. And the Morlocks are now on the board. The Morlocks have taken over Cincinnati. They have 2 on the track here. Man, can I get out of this hospital? A 2, yes, I move forward without an encounter. Oh no, that's a 2. That is an encounter at number 2. An empathetic nurse. Healing proceeds rapidly. Advance, then take another turn. Okay. And a 4, no encounter. I'm now in the outpatient. And actually, that should have been there. And then that should have moved down. Now it's my turn again. I think I might have missed a turn there. But let's see if I have an encounter. A 1 and an 8. A blood raid. Advance, but succeed at easy versus combat or lose 1 contact. Easy versus combat, 6 or under. A 3. Okay, so now I can move to any metropolis. Let's go to the Carolina Triangle and see what we have here. The Demon Ground. Roll for a Demon Ground encounter. Okay, let's roll here. We have a 2 and a 6. So the Demon Grounds here. If we roll a 1, 2, or 3, we do table A. And we rolled a 6. A 6 or higher is no encounter. So we have no encounter in the Demon Grounds. Okay, so that gets drawn there. And then we drew that. And now it's the plot card turn. So that moves down 1. And now we can move out to a corner. I'm going to go to street training to get 2 contacts and 1 stocking. Okay, 1, 2. All right, so now plot card. Compete. It's a wild hunt that just gets discarded, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, say a wild hunt. It could have been cool if there was a little story or some art or something on this card to tell us, to show us what the wild hunt is. What are we hunting? Why? What happens? And so on. But yeah, that's kind of the game. It's very simple. I probably missed a couple of the plot card turns, just kind of trying to go fast here on camera. And but once you get into the groove, you can play this game really, really quickly. And I've just had it kind of set up for the week, and I have been enjoying it, even though it is pretty dry. You kind of start to build your own little story as you go. You can kind of start connecting the dots between these various proto-dimension encounters, or the Demon Ground encounters, the Outlaw encounters, and so on. Leveling up your character. As you start getting more equipment, it becomes more and more fun because you have more abilities. And eventually you can get a whole bunch of money. Like, I mean, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And you can spend money to travel more quickly and safely around America here and confronting more and more plots as you go. So there is that kind of snowballing effect, which is pretty cool. A crossbow here, the cat's eye night vision scope. What else do we have? A Kevlar helmet, a Marlin 30-06 rifle, a longbow, a Browning, flare gun. So all kinds of neat things. Here we have the vampiric sword and thermal glove. Very cool. A car, the walkie-talkie hand radio, a knife, a zip gun. Yeah, so they're all kinds of equipment. And yeah, this game is kind of neat. I would love to see somebody like Restoration Games bring this back into print with a little bit of a modern twist. You don't need mini. I'm not asking for minis. I'm not asking for a super ornate production. Just something like this, a nice square size board, quad fold though, so it could fit in a smaller box. And just with some more art, with some more theme, with a little bit more of that kind of thematic spice that we expect from a modern adventure game. And I think this could actually be a pretty cool game. I would want them to keep it simple. I would want them to keep it mostly as is, because one of the neat things about this game is just how quickly it plays. And you can just get into that groove and you can play a complete game in an hour or less. And I think that's pretty cool because a lot of these kinds of games do take far too long to play. So I appreciate the kind of the nature of brevity that Minion Hunters has. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at Minion Hunter and the Minion Nation expansion. Let me know if you had any experience with the role-playing game, if you enjoyed it, and also if you had any experience growing up with this board game version. So we will talk to you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.